Dr. Niranjan Kambate. He's quite well known in CMC, and he has a lot of experience in electrical safety and calibration. He speaks specifically on preventive maintenance and calibration of medical equipment. He has a background in electrical electronics engineering. He has an MTech and PhD in biomedical engineering, and he has worked in L&T in their medical equipment division for slightly less than a year. Then he has worked at the Sri Chitra Tirunel Institute for Medical Science and Technology in Trivandrum for more than 20 years, and now he is at the Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital in Pune. And so he brings a lot of experience in this area to this lecture.
Professor Suresh Devas, I am and co-chairperson for that introduction. And at the outset, let me thank CMC Vellore and conference organizers to give me the opportunity to come here, not only to talk about medical device safety, preventive maintenance, calibration, but for me this is a good learning opportunity because I get to know many other topics which are concerned with hospital and hospital safety. I also congratulate CMC Vellore because I came to know that they have been given an ABH accreditation. So it's really a great honor and pleasure to be here and talking about medical equipment safety. The topic which was given to me is, as you see, is preventive maintenance and calibration and what is its importance. I of course added one more word called safety testing because that becomes an important part of all this activity. Within the 20 minutes which I have, I'm not very sure whether I can detail all the preventive maintenance issues related to medical equipment. So what I have done is actually I put some slides and then I will share some of the points, some of my thoughts, and then let us see if we can discuss out and see whether we can come to some kind of conclusion or recommendations. Yeah, so the topic is now going to cover the medical equipment part of it. We have listened to electrical installation and electrical safety on the wiring side. The previous speaker has briefly touched upon the medical equipment safety by showing a patient and a leakage current or the earth current flowing through his body. I want to cover the overall medical equipment or medical device safety. And when you talk of medical device, it covers a large range of equipment which is used in hospital, right from a simple patient bed to MRI scan. And each equipment, each device has its own safety concerns. I don't think I can cover everything, but just a few thoughts. So you can see in the slide, clinical environment, especially the critical care area, is a very complex environment. There are a lot of medical equipment, lot of people. There is patient somewhere there, but there is a lot of clinical team around, and all of them are handling equipment. So if you think of a parallel situation, it's something like a typical traffic. I don't know what city it is. Of course, I have taken the picture somewhere from the internet, but it's something like a chaotic traffic on the road in India, which most of us experience almost every day. And when we use the equipment which goes onto these roads, typically a vehicle, we need a license for using that equipment when we go onto the road, right? That is some basic minimum training required to use the equipment, minimum safety precaution that the government has put in place to make sure that in spite of all this chaotic traffic, we minimize the accidents which are caused by this use of equipment. If you want to go to the healthcare domain, we have equipment which is used in hospital. Do we have a concept of license for using this equipment is the first thought. By license I mean, do we have people trained to use this equipment? Does anybody assess their competency of our ability to be able to use the equipment correctly? This is something which is perhaps a little bit of weakness in our entire healthcare system, and there could be many reasons due to this gap or this weakness, but to some extent we are missing these kind of licenses to use medical equipment. That means we don't have systems in place to have licenses or training for using this kind of equipment. So that's the question mark, and the result of that is once in a while, all the way these kind of situations are reported in newspapers. It is very disturbing and disappointing to come across these kind of reports in the newspapers. And this is something which had come very recently in November 2013 on the front page of a very reputed newspaper in South India, that is Hindu. And again, it's quite disturbing, and CMC Vendelore being a medical college, it's something to be noted. And there could be any few more incidents, and if you go onto the internet, and one of our students had done the study, last 10 years he had seen some 15-20 incidences only of incubator burns. And I met him just 2 days back, and he told me there was one more incident which was just reported on the very first day of this year. Unfortunately, it was in the same hospital which had an incident, I think in 2007 or 2008. So what is happening? We, as it has been discussed right from the morning, it is expected that when the patient goes to the hospital, the doctor, the entire healthcare team goes and gives care to him with a concept that do no harm. Then what is it that is causing these kind of situations is what perhaps we can analyze and discuss. As most of you have heard from the morning, patient safety in a very overall term is becoming very important concern in last 5 years, 7, 8, 10 years. And there are so many issues related to patient safety. As you can see on the list, most of them, for example, medication errors are highlighted in the morning talks, but infection control will be covered tomorrow. I just want to know, when this patient safety is discussed in many other forums, is there enough time and energy and effort or attention given to the issue of equipment safety? That forms a very important part of patient safety or healthcare technology safety. This is just an open question. The fact that I have been given an opportunity, I'm sure people are sensitive to this, but I believe that more and more discussions need to happen, because medical equipment is not just one type, there are many different types of equipment. Now, what is this medical equipment safety? I just put some slide in which you can see that the simplest medical equipment like scalpel in two forms. The one on the right hand side is a bare scalpel, one on the left hand side is actually wrapped up in a sterile covering. Now, the fact that this scalpel is used for making a cut and a functional requirement is sharpness. But then what is its safety requirement? Safety requirement is sterility. What it means is the scalpel on the right hand side also could be sharp, but it is not sterile. And this is something which is very easily understood by a medical professional or a nursing staff. So nobody will use this scalpel, because though it would be sharp, it is functionally okay, it may not be safe. So that is the concept. And one can very easily understand this from the infection control point of view when it comes to usage of scalpel. We go to a little higher level of medical device, not up to the MRI, but even as simple as patient monitor. Now, do we really think of what is this functional requirement and what is this independent safety requirement? Just by looking at this patient monitor, there is no way one can know that whether it is really working safely or it is performing well. Of course, if you see some waveforms, something like ECG coming onto the screen, then maybe you would think that yes, it may be working okay. But that is not sufficient, and that is where the role of preventive maintenance, safety testing and calibrations come into play. So, are the healthcare professionals questioning this? I am not very sure. You are the people who would answer this question. And if you walk around the hospitals, I've been to quite a number of hospitals in the last 4 or 5 years as a part of some of our awareness activity, and we come to know and see such kind of medical equipment, sometimes in live clinical use. And as previous speaker said, where the power cord enters, you should have a very good connection. But unfortunately, we do come across this type of equipment in various hospitals, whether it is government or private. It is cutting across all the different types of hospitals that we do see this kind of equipment. And we conducted a pilot study asking respondents, the clinicians from the critical area, to respond their experiences regarding medical equipment and what harm it has caused to the patients. And you can see that electrocautery equipment is something which 64% of the respondents said that they had seen that cause harm to the patient, which is preventable, unwanted, unexpected harm. And then we expanded the survey last year to include almost 500 participants and almost same kind of results. So there is something which is wrong in the system when we look at medical equipment, when we use that medical equipment. This is what these kind of results indicate. So how to address this challenge? And as the topic of this talk says, we have to do periodic preventive maintenance, periodic calibration, and periodic safety testing. Now, am I telling you something new and something great ideas? This is common sense, and I don't think we need to have a debate on whether you need to do it or not. It needs to be done, is it not? So then, why do we still come across these kind of equipment, the kind of pictures that I have shown? That is the question that actually we need to address. We don't have to address the question whether we need to do preventive maintenance. This is common sense, okay? So what is stopping us from actually addressing this challenge? One of the ways to make sure that we have a good preventive maintenance schedule and safety testing schedule in practice is to go strictly by the manufacturer's guidelines, because manufacturers manufacture the equipment and then they tell us what to do. But are we really following the manufacturer's instructions religiously? If we do that, perhaps we will be definitely making sure that the equipment is safe, functionally performing okay, and calibrated. Now, it's just one example. Most of the manufacturers' user manual you go and see, first of all, it has to be traceable in the clinical environment. Most of the time it is available with somebody, but everybody does not know it is available with whom. So it's not accessible or available very easily. Secondly, even if it is available, if you see some of these snapshots from the user manuals, first or second chapter clearly and explicitly talks about, for example, precautions or warnings, precautions and adverse effects, control patient safety and things like that. So manufacturer side, they give so much importance to medical equipment safety and patient safety. Is it the user side that are we really looking at this carefully and making sure that that is put in practice? That's the question. And this is an example. Manufacturer sends a power cord with an equipment which is looking different from the Indian equipment, but he also sends a label along with that. And what does that label say? What the label says is, this is an electromagnetic device is equipped with a hospital grade attachment. With grounding reliability can only be achieved when an equivalent receptacle with hospital grade is used. Okay? Unfortunately, we ignore this and then we tend to put that kind of power cord directly into the Indian power plug. Very unfortunately, the European power plug sits very comfortably in Indian power plug, and what we have done is we have not cared of connecting the ground. So there is no connection of ground because you need a different receptacle. Now the manufacturer has put a label on the power cord with a red color, but we are ignoring it. So first step is, if you want to ensure good preventive maintenance and make sure that the equipment is safe and functionally well, try to religiously follow the manufacturer's instructions. Managing adverse events, and we have listened to a lot of data in the morning, kind of 98,000 people estimated died due to medical errors and things like that. Also there was a discussion about root cause analysis for failure mode analysis. So this is something which needs to be done, because most of the time it is the system that makes somebody at the end to cause a mistake. What we don't want is a blame policy. So there should be a no blame policy, because the individual, the healthcare professional who happens to be the sharp end, as they call it, and he happens to commit the mistake, is probably due to something else which is wrong with the system. He might be doing a double shift, he might be doing extended hours of work or things like that. So one needs to have a no blame policy and very objectively analyze why this adverse event or why this equipment failed and the patient was harmed. So there needs to be a systematic adverse event reporting system. I am sure hospitals like CMC Vellore and Jibmer in Pondicherry are already into that area, but then we need to spread this message all over the India to all the hospitals to have an adverse event reporting system. And I always thought, in spite of all these things, are we really allocating enough resource in making sure that our equipment is taken care of well? We want to do preventive maintenance, we want to do safety testing, but do we have enough resource? Resource in terms of the testing equipment, resource in terms of the people who really are required to do this kind of testing and calibration. And I thought I will draw an example. In one of the institutes, actually the Sri Chitra Institute where I was working, I just had a look at the data of the transport department where there are 9 vehicles, combination of car and ambulance and bus and things like that. Altogether they cost approximately rupees 70 lakhs. And I'm sure the colleagues who are having their cars would tell me that each vehicle may cost about 10 or 15,000 rupees per year to 20,000 rupees. So even if bus would probably cost higher to give it for servicing, 2 times a year. So on an average, even if we consider that 20,000 rupees is the cost per vehicle, it will come to 1.8 lakh rupees, which is just 2.5% of 70 lakhs, and it is fine. The organization knows that if they don't keep away this 2.5 lakh rupees, there is no guarantee that the vehicle is going to run reliably. It may fail in spite of the availability of the driver and the fuel, it may not run. So there is no difficulty in understanding that we need to put 2.5% of resource in making sure that whatever investment we are doing in the vehicle is useful for the purpose. But do we actually do this when it comes to medical equipment maintenance and medical equipment management is the question in front of us. For example, for an asset of, say, for example, 100 crores, which is a rough figure for the institute which I am talking about, we can easily have 2.5 crores, which is 2.5% allocated for making sure that this 100 crore worth asset is actually useful when it is required. And it will not fail uncertainly, or it will not fail in the middle of your road, for example, in the middle of your case or middle of your surgery. But I really doubt whether we and the hospital management and the senior colleagues in the hospital environment think like that. And that is where actually we need to very clearly have a look and see if what is required is being done. And I have highlighted in yellow color is the requirement of human resource, because it's no point in just having all equipment or even the test equipment and then no individuals and no technicians to actually carry out the test. Most of the time there is a lot of underestimation in terms of how many people you really require to make sure that the equipment is maintained well and safety tested. So these are some of the issues I feel need really close attention to make sure that the medical equipment runs well. Just last few slides, just 2 slides. Electrical safety is important in hospitals because we have patients in hospitals who cannot react normally. As the previous speaker, Mr. Stephen Victor said, we can withdraw. If I get a shock, I can withdraw my hand, but patient may be immobilized, or patient may be anesthetized, or patient may be sedated, and he may not be able to respond in that way. Similarly, we are deliberately causing the breach of the natural defense system of our body, which is the skin, which is the highest resistance to prevent electric current going into the body. In case of patients, that is the kind of situation when they go for surgery. So one needs to be more careful when it comes to medical equipment. And there are international standards. And of course, this is the international standard. There is an Indian standard actually doing the same thing. And what it says is medical electrical equipment, recurrent test and test after repair and medical electrical equipment. This standard is specifically designed for doing tests of medical equipment in hospital practice. There is another standard which tells about how do you design the medical equipment, and the manufacturers are responsible for that. Manufacturers are responsible for testing it and then giving it to the hospital. So when the equipment or the medical device comes to the hospital, when the hospital owns it, it is the hospital's responsibility to make sure that it is used safely and maintained safely. And because patients are the responsibility of the hospital. They are admitted to the hospital. So this is one of the things which we need to follow very carefully. Finally, coming to the last slide, I think in a broader perspective, the medical equipment management, as we call, right from procurement to disposal, needs to fit into some kind of quality management system. And there are very well established concepts and protocols in industrial engineering or the industrial side of it, where there are only engineers. In hospital, we have a very mix of professionals, especially the two well-known professions, the engineering and the medicine, come together. And we have a tendency that they are heterogeneous. Actually, there is no need to think like that. But if you think of a production industry, a car manufacturing unit, they are in the conveyor belt production line, and even if the conveyor belt stops for 15 minutes, there is a huge loss of revenue. So there are a lot of systems, for example, ISO 9000, 2008 kind of standards, which we can apply to clinical engineering services. Or users' involvement and users' training is another very important aspect, as we have seen. If you don't carefully look at the manufacturer's user standards, user manual, then there is a problem. So I thought I will just put a few points in front of the audience and the experts here, and then perhaps we can have a detailed discussion. Thank you very much again. I thank CMC Vellore Conference Secretariat, and of course the director of the Dinanath Mangeshkar Hospital, who has allowed me to come here and share my thoughts with you. Thank you very much.